Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon if you are following us from the United Arab Emirates. It is my pleasure to welcome you at this webinar on e-commerce in the GCC, organized by Flanders Investment and Trade. E-commerce has gotten a spectacular boost in the past months. Consumers faced with lockdowns and other restrictions have discovered new paths to purchase if they haven't done so already, making e-commerce nowadays an indispensable part of just about every company's business strategy. Today, these inspiring speakers will give you a thorough insight into e-commerce in the Middle East, so you are able to identify new market opportunities there for future growth. Before we get started, let me give you a few quick guidelines so this webinar runs smoothly. Please have your microphones muted and your cameras switched off. Feel free to post any questions you might have for our speakers in the chat box. At the end of the webinar, we have some time reserved for Q&A. However, if your question is too specific or if we run out of time, rest assured we will pick up your question and get back to you with an answer afterwards. A copy of the presentations will be sent to you after the webinar as well. With that being said, and without further ado, it is my pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Peter Klaas, Ambassador of Belgium to the United Arab Emirates, for the welcome note. Mr. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Evelyn, for your introduction. Good morning to the participants in Belgium and good afternoon to the participants in the UAE. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be part of this initiative and have the chance to participate and learn more about the many opportunities offered by e-commerce. As we all know, e-commerce has become part of our lives, both in our personal sphere, but also and perhaps even more so in business. As in other areas, the United Arab Emirates is in the forefront of developments in this field. I therefore welcome all speakers and participants. Your participation in this seminar is a sign that the e-commerce sector, in particular the way it articulates itself in a booming market like the GCC and the UAE, still raises questions, doubts, and sometimes fears. The purpose of this seminar is to help to better understand the new reality and how to deal with it constructively and positively. It also aims to offer a useful platform to establish contacts and enrich your networks. For this, Flanders Investment and Trade has assembled a distinguished panel of expert speakers representing major players in the e-commerce field. In order of their participation, I first thank Visa Middle East. I especially wish to mention Mr. Wasim Rahman, Director Products, and Ms. Yagruti Mistry, Head of Corporate Communications, Middle East and North Africa, for their extended support and cooperation with Flanders Investment and Trade Dubai. As speaker at this webinar, I welcome Mrs. Diane Tullery, Head of Digital Solutions, MENA. We're delighted to have her on board and share her over 15 years of experience in the payments industry. Second, I express my sincere appreciation to Bain & Company Middle East for its participation in this event. We're looking forward to the intervention by Mr. Cyril Fabre, Director, whom I cordially greet. Mr. Fabre leads Bain's consumer products and retail practice and family businesses in the Middle East, and we are delighted to learn more about his expertise and insights in the e-commerce sector, especially the way e-commerce improves experience and performance of companies and customers. The third segment of this webinar features Noon. I'm very proud of having such an established brand participating in the webinar. We're thankful for Noon's very constructive and warm cooperation over the past months in making this webinar possible. Our thanks go specifically to Ms. Maria Mohammed, Public Partnership Ambassador with Noon, for her enterprising and collaborative approach and contribution to the success of today. For today's event, I welcome Mr. Sid Chowdhury, Marketing Lead at Noon, specializing in partnerships, and Mr. Ravi Kant, Head of Marketplace and Strategic Partnership for the Noon Fashion business, as our guest speakers. We're looking forward to learning from them how Noon approaches both the market, in particular the retailer segment, and also about consumer trends in the region. Fourthly, and finally, I'm honored to introduce Truebell Marketing and Trading. We're grateful to welcome Mrs. Nathalie Carvalho, Head of E-commerce at this event, and we are excited to learn more about her expertise in the e-commerce market. None of this would be possible without the drive given by FIT, Vlaanderen Investment and Trade, both the teams at headquarters in Brussels, headed by Mrs. Evelien Stalens, responsible for the GCC region, and the Dubai office, headed by Mr. Chris Put, Economic and Commercial Commissioner. He, along with Mrs. Nayara Laskar and the other members of the FIT office, have again invested heavily to set up this webinar and make sure that it yields the desired results. Representing Belgium in the UAE, I am both privileged and very proud to be able to count on them in furthering our global bilateral relations and specifically relations in the commercial field and contributing to the economic partnership between business in Flanders, Belgium and the UAE. Ladies and gentlemen, as we're slowly detecting light at the end of the COVID-19 tunnel, it is important that we look ahead. We can certainly draw lessons from the recent past, and we know that the world as we knew it has fundamentally changed. E-commerce has become an integral part of doing business and of normal life as such. But we are not only talking about economy. With major concerns like climate change and socio-economic challenges, all stakeholders are compelled to reflect on how business is done and how we can ensure our common future in a just, sustainable and balanced way. I'm certain that e-commerce is very much part of the solution of many challenges and that we need to make full use of the opportunities it offers. With these considerations, I wish all a fruitful seminar and excellent contacts. These contacts are at present still virtual, but we hope that they can soon be resumed in person. So I thank you for your attention, and now I hand over the floor to Evelien.
Thank you, Mr. Kind words and support. Our first speaker of today is Mr. Cyril Fabre, who is a director in Bain & Company's Middle East offices. He leads Bain's consumer products and retail practice and family businesses in the Middle East. Mr. Fabre has over 20 years of management consulting experience and primarily advises retailers and consumer product companies on strategy, consumer experience, digital, and performance improvement. Mr. Fabre, we are looking very much forward to hearing your presentation on e-commerce in the Middle East. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Evelien. Thank you, Ms. Ambassador. Pleasure to be here with you. I've always had a soft spot for Belgium, where I spent 3 years. In fact, my 3 first years at Bain & Company, I was based in Belgium, in Brussels. Can you see, Evelyn, my screen?
Yes, that's working perfectly.
Okay, that's great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to share some perspective, I think, first on the retail market in the region. And I focus largely on Saudi Arabia, which is by far the largest market, and then I shift gear to the e-commerce. Looking at retail and how the retail market is evolving. Again, this is the example of Saudi Arabia, but to some extent, it's applicable to many markets in the region. So what you can see here is the evolution of consumer expenditure as measured by the amount of cash that people withdraw from ATM and the amount of money they spend on their debit card. So this is a central bank data that is released every month, so it's fairly accurate, but obviously it's a broad indicator. So you see that the market was doing quite well in 2019 after 2 years of kind of recession in 16 and 17. The market started growing in 18 and was doing quite well in 19. And then in January and February, the market was actually growing double digit, which is strong performance. And then the COVID hit and the market started going down very substantially during lockdown, obviously at -34, -32%. And then June was a strong month as people were, VAT increased as the 1st of July. So people tried to anticipate their purchase pre-VAT, and you can see that the market was growing double digit in June. And then post-VAT increase, frankly, the market has not done too bad. It's kind of stabilized at around 1% growth, despite the fact that VAT was increased from 5% to 15%. So overall, year to date, we are at -5% for the total retail. And again, this is Saudi Arabia, but it's not very dissimilar across the region. The last 4 months has been, in a way, positive. The fact that people could not travel out of Saudi Arabia very easily, and generally that most residents could not travel out very easily from the Gulf region, has meant that all the money that used to be spent in London and other places inside the region, and that has really supported the retail sector. Obviously, a few other changes happened in the last few months, which are gradually linked to e-commerce. One, you see that increasing share of payment is from debit card. It used to be very much of a cash-based economy, but you can see that in October 2020, 39% of all purchases were done on debit card, which is compared to 24% in 2018. So electronic payment much more accepted, and you can see that electronic payment is growing by 22%, while the transaction is growing 72%, meaning that people use their card even for a much smaller amount than before, and people use a contactless payment functionality from Visa or MasterCard, even for transaction below 3 euros or so. Now, obviously, not all sectors are equal. Some sectors benefited a little bit from the pandemics, if I may say. So this is a sector like grocery, like telecom, that everybody was stuck at home, so using more telecom. Building material and home improvement, people wanted to make their home look nicer and more comfortable as they spend more time at home. Electronics, everybody wanted a better TV, a better laptop, more iPad in the family, as a lot of students do school digitally. So all those 4 sectors are probably the 4 winners. Now other sectors suffered a lot. I mean, hotels, needless to say, there was no tourism, business tourism or leisure tourism, but also fashion and clothing suffered tremendously from the crisis. So did jewelry, transportation, obviously, also suffered from the crisis. F&B is restaurant initially, and you can see here about how people spend their money on food. Obviously, with the lockdown, people start going to the grocery shop a lot more and not going to the restaurant, only a kind of delivery option. But you can see that starting end of lockdown, mid-April, restaurant had a very, very fast recovery, and in fact has gone from strength to strength since the summer. As people could not travel out to other countries this summer, they spend a lot more time going out inside the countries and inside the region, and the restaurant benefited from that. So restaurant at the moment is doing quite well. Moving now to e-commerce. So you probably hear different numbers from the e-commerce today, from the different presentation. Sometimes it's because we include different things. So the numbers you see here for the MENA market on e-commerce, it's only looking at retail goods. So it excludes travel, it excludes digital media, it excludes food service like restaurant delivery. It's only things like electronics, fashion and beauty and home goods, only tangible goods. And that market has been booming in the region, even pre-COVID. So the market was estimated in a joint study we did with Google some time ago in 2017 at $8.5 billion. And by 2019, so pre-COVID, it reached 14 billion, which is a very fast growth of 29% annual growth rate. And that means that in countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, penetration of e-commerce is now around 6% of total retail. And that is much lower than what it is in Belgium, and most continental Europe is around 12%. The UK is at 20%. The United States is at 15 or 16. So obviously 6% remains a pretty low figure, but nonetheless, it's no longer a very low figure. Egypt is only 2%, but is booming even more than the rest of the region. And in Saudi Arabia, e-commerce accounted for about 2/3 of the total retail growth. And in the United Arab Emirates, e-commerce accounted for 100% of the total retail growth. So e-commerce is really the fastest growing retail channel for sure, but it's in fact almost the only growing retail channel, as the stores are not declining but are no longer growing. So even pre-COVID, you can see it was a large and growing market. Penetration, as I said, around 6.6%, which has significant growth potential compared to other markets around the world. The market is starting to mature a bit in terms of categories. So you see on the right side of the slide, you see the breakdown of the e-commerce sales by category in Egypt. And this is typical of a very nascent market where the bulk of the market is in electronics. People will buy their phone and things like that online. And electronics account for about 90% of the, not 90%, but a very high share, about 70% of the e-commerce sales. But when you look inside the GCC, so be it in the UAE or Saudi Arabia, a more diversified market by type of category. Yes, electronic is still the largest category, followed by fashion, followed by beauty. Beauty is particularly strong online in the region compared to other markets. This is a quite staggering reality. A lot of the perfumes and makeup are bought online. Reason. Then grocery is still quite small, although it's a very big market, but it's only starting to grow pre-COVID. And then you have obviously a comparison with the United States, and you can see that the other category and the home category is much bigger in the United States. As market is more mature, consumers start buying online everything, not only electronics and fashion and beauty, but literally everything. And this, as we see with COVID, is coming to the region. Now, what do consumers want? Consumers, yes, people are quite wealthy in the region, but they are very price sensitive. 78% of the people compare price before purchasing online. And when you ask them what's most important to you when selecting a e-commerce platform, price comes number one. And by price, I mean both price and promotion, as there are significant promotion. So you have to remember that this is a price-sensitive market and a promotion-driven market. Although people are quite wealthy, they don't want to be taken for a ride. They want to make a deal. Number two is people are quite hungry for quality services, be it in the delivery or in the support. They like to have a seamless experience, and they want large assortment. The assortment that we have typically in the store is much more narrow than it is in Europe. Be it in fashion or in any category, we tend to have less choices in the store, particularly outside the UAE. In UAE, we have quite a lot of choices. And online obviously has a great benefit to bring almost endless aisle. And you have to know that about 50% of the market, or let's say 45% of the market, is cross-border. So 55% of the market is goods that are stocked inside the region, and 45% is goods that are bought from a platform in Europe or in China or in the US and sent to the region as a parcel. So big website like ASOS in Europe, or Zalando, or Shein in China, or Amazon in the US, eBay are shipping quite a lot cross-border into this market. So those are the things that people are more concerned about. Just to emphasize a bit more on promotion, about half of the people will only buy if there is a promotion. If there is no promotion, they will not buy online. And comparing with other markets in the fashion category, asking people why they shop online, you can see that best promotion campaign or sales is actually more important for GCC customer than it is from their Western counterparts. And this is a Western is UK, US, Germany, and United States. So it's a very promotion driven market, and which means that you have cyclical sales. We speak around, White Fridays or Black Fridays or whatever it's been called. And there is a huge peak as there's more promotion and people engage a lot on this promotion. So this is a price sensitive and promo driven market. People are not so happy about one thing. You can see here what people are happy or not happy about. They're quite happy about the promotion. They are increasingly happy about the product being offered, the brand being offered, but they're not happy with the last mile experience. Still in the region, because partly there's a lot of cross-border transaction, which is a long delivery lead time, but also people complain about, the delivery time, the lack of order tracking, the customer care, the challenges for refund and exchange, the incomplete order shipment. Those are all areas of frustration for the GCC online customer. Now, moving to COVID, COVID had a big impact, no doubt. You can see here the market looking at the UAE and Saudi together, and some indication about the category impact. So you can see the major impact of COVID, at least during the lockdown period, was the boom of two very large but underdeveloped categories that are grocery and home. Before, very, very few people were buying grocery and home online. Maybe only penetration rate around 2%, 1 or 2%, one in Saudi and 2 in the UAE when it comes to grocery. But obviously during lockdown, this increased dramatically. And you can see on the right-hand side, the growth in these sort of online food orders in the first half of 2020 compared to the same period in 2019. Is a big hypermarket chain, increased its order by 257%. Bin Dawood in Saudi Arabia by 200%. InstaShop, which is a bit like Instacart, a sort of hyper local grocery e-commerce, grew their order by 330%. And Delivery Hero, which is delivering restaurant orders, so restaurant is not included in the market, but I included it here, has been growing by 20%. So you see that food online, be it grocery or restaurant, has been growing dramatically. In particular, the grocery, which was underdeveloped before and suddenly started growing. Now, what has been the impact of COVID beyond that? The way I look at it is a little bit this graph, which is illustrative. So market was growing, fast before COVID. And then with lockdown, there was a bump. It suddenly not grew fast, but it exploded. And in fact, all delivery systems were kind of congested. And then after lockdown, e-commerce went down, but it went down at a higher level than it was before lockdown. And then it started growing at a faster rate than it was growing pre-lockdown. So the kind of these three phases: fast growth before lockdown, boom during lockdown, then come down, but at a higher level and faster growth. This growth is driven by the fact that some people were not buying online. Suddenly they started buying online. About, I think in the Visa study, I think we say 15% of the shoppers were first timers, more frequently, and also in new categories like grocery, home, and basically everything. People buy now everything online. Almost no limitation. Better economics for the online players. Discount no longer the only driver. Discount is important, but not the only factor now. People value convenience and so on. Lower share of cash on delivery. I mentioned that the share of plastic payment is increasing. Cash on delivery is very costly. And lower customer acquisition cost. Marketing cost online used to be very high in the region. And with the pandemics, there was a bit less advertising and generally customer acquisition went down. New competitive dynamics. So omni-channel retailer that used to be quite focused on the stores and quite late at embracing the e-commerce revolution they start embracing it a lot more and making it their priority. In fact, many of them survive only because of e-commerce, as this was the only source of cash flow during the lockdown period. Emergence of mega platform, Noon is here and will tell you about their offering. Amazon also are certainly the two leaders of the market, which together probably have 50% market share, and a bit fewer cross-border trade between the region and the rest of the world. So going forward, and that's my last slide, we do see potential for increasing penetration. You can see here category by category, see a little bit of potential to grow in electronics. So the dotted line is where we see it growing in the next few years. So some growth remaining in electronics. We're still way below the global benchmark. Some growth also in fashion. In beauty, less growth because the penetration rate today is already quite high. Grocery moving from the sort of 2% to the sort of 5, 6, 7%, and home and garden growing from the sort of 4% to 7%. So across all categories, we see e-commerce gaining substantial share, which is great for e-commerce, but obviously pose some challenges for the retailers who have been a bit late at embracing that new channel. That's all I have to share with you today, and happy to answer any question you may have on the chat box as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Faber, for this very insightful presentation. With our next speaker, we will be looking at the e-commerce phenomenon from a payments perspective, because who has more and better data available on consumer behavior than a credit card company? Mrs. Diane Tullery has over 15 years of experience in the payments industry, having held various management positions with national and international payment leaders. She's currently head of digital solutions with Visa for the Middle East and North Africa, leading the company's efforts on e-commerce, API capabilities, contactless and tokenization solutions. Mrs. Diane Tullery, we are very happy to have you with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Evelyn. It's a great pleasure for me actually to be with you this morning or this afternoon, and I'm really happy actually to discuss how to capture the digital opportunity, especially on e-commerce in GCC. So first, let's take a small step back and let me just provide an overview at the global level. So even before the pandemic, globally, e-commerce sales growth has been strong, capturing a larger share of the total retail market, and it was expected actually to remain so. So e-commerce sales are forecast to reach 4.2 trillion in 2020, up from 2.4 trillion in 2017. Basically, Asia Pacific and particularly China was historically leading the global e-commerce growth in recent years, with an increase of 25% in 2019. But growth rates in the Middle East and Africa, as well as Latin America, are not far behind, around 21%, which are above the global average. While North America and Western Europe, more mature e-commerce markets, as you know, are showing a flattening of the e-commerce growth curve. So basically, this transition to online may be driven by the effective transformation of technological capabilities into quicker, safer, more intuitive and personalized experiences. And payment plays a significant role in this value chain, facilitating the increasing convergence between online and offline channels. So this global e-commerce growth is supported by key trends. First, augmented reality spread, creating immersive shopping experiences where consumers can test and try products before purchase, enhance the consumer shopping experience, and increasing sales conversions. Social commerce and in-app purchases, so social media platforms such as Instagram are more and more integrating the e-commerce experience in their platform with in-app checkout, allowing users to make purchases without leaving the app. Personalization. Merchants are increasingly analyzing customer previous actions, shopping behavior, demographic profile, and other personal data to reveal patterns, trends, to create customized offers and product recommendations. Integrated omni-channels experience. Good example is in the US, Amazon Go stores allow consumers to buy products in store but check out digitally, which really is a concrete example of convergence between online and offline channels. And digital payment expansions, from securing the transaction to enabling new form factors, basically mobile, IoT, Internet of Things, to driving value through loyalty and trust. Digital payments facilitate secure, frictionless, and easy e-commerce experiences. And payment buttons such as Apple Pay, PayPal, or Visa Click to Pay remove the hassle of entering payment details for each transaction. Payment technologies such as tokenization, secure remote commerce, biometrics, risk-based authentication solutions will increase security and reduce the friction for faster checkout. And consumers are being offered greater convenience, customer experience, flexible payment options, and instant fulfillment, which all add up to a better user experience. So, in the GCC, the e-com growth shows an increase in online engagement from both retailers and consumers. So the number of e-commerce enabled websites has more than tripled since 2015. Add to this a wider increase in screen time and social media usage, which has reached up to 90% penetration in some markets. So basically with familiarity comes engagement, which is reflected in the conversion rates for GCC e-commerce. Up to 3% of visitors to e-commerce websites in the region end up making a purchase, which is comparable to other regions. And users are not just spending, they are spending big. Consumers spend between $200 and $1,700 online every year in these countries. And I've come to expect a center stand of customer experience. Last, Cyril Fabre was mentioning, online fashion and beauty sector, as well as food and grocery delivery sectors, are the most popular. Looking at GCC with more granularity, UAE and Saudi clearly appear as the most advanced e-commerce countries in GCC, with a similar size to Belgium in terms of projected revenue in the e-commerce market in 2020. However, their growth rate is higher. Looking at the average revenue per user, UAE, given its size and infrastructure, is the leader in the region. So let's look now at the GCC key assets. So the GCC enjoy many advantages that make it ideal for e-commerce growth. The first, demographic profile. The GCC e-commerce landscape is defined by its demographic profile and high income levels, with a high percentage of digital native young adults between the ages of 18 and 39. Millennials and Gen Z seek convenient shopping experience, and they are considered as an influential customer base for e-commerce adoption. So for example, in UAE in 2020, a share of 55% of user is between 18 and 34 years old, 43 in Saudi. GCC contains some of the highest mobile and internet penetration rates globally. Mass internet adoption resulted from a combination of digital infrastructure and also eager consumer adoption of social media and smartphones. So GCC consumers have jumped straight to mobile commerce, operating across digital platforms easily. UAE and Saudi consumers are really comfortable to use a variety of access tools for purchasing online. They are both enthusiastic adopters of e-commerce, with interest peaking during seasonal shopping events such as Ramadan or White Friday sales. Within this context, actually, UAE remain a hub for e-commerce growth, whether in attracting startups or creating multiple channels to ensure safe and secure payments, on top of having a young internet-savvy population and consumers among the most connected in the world. Let's focus on UAE for a moment. So the UAE shopper is among the top spender online in spend. We're talking about $1,700 a year, but also in terms of frequency. Based on our on Visa transaction data, basically we can see that there is higher average transaction size compared to both mature and emerging e-commerce markets. So basically we are talking about $122 compared to $76 in mature market and $22 in emerging markets. If we take a benchmark of Australia, Canada, Singapore, Sweden, UK, USA for mature markets, and Brazil, Malaysia, and South Africa for emerging. The category spend for e-commerce year on year is continuing to evolve, with new sectors trying to establish their footprint, growing number of retail and grocery, food and beverage, travel businesses are included, including online channels more and more. But if we look at the e-commerce penetration of the top 10 spend categories, we can see that definitely there is a higher e-commerce penetration of the QSR category. And actually we can see Karim, Deliveroo, and Talabat everywhere here. However, there is still an opportunity to expand online into more sectors. The top 10 spend categories in the UAE account for 78% of online spend. Basically government payments mostly. Government and education spend has been driven by policy initiatives to promote a cashless economy and digitization of transactions. So the further expansion opportunity remains in entertainment, transportation, healthcare, home improvement, and insurance as well. The significant growth seen in recent years has been possible due to the increasing alignment in stakeholder objectives, consumer demand, merchant distribution model innovation, venture capital funding, improving logistical capabilities, and also government policies have all been focused on driving the UAE e-commerce markets. So the key driver are evolving consumers, but actually a young consumer base that wants to shop using their mobile phones are actively looking for e-commerce experiences that work for them. Merchants offering and payment innovation, which address the consumer demand and also drive e-commerce volumes. One of the main challenges restricting e-commerce growth so far was the limited access to a broad selection of products. But over the recent years, this has been addressed with e-commerce becoming one of the top strategic priorities for the largest retail groups. They have invested significant resources in creating omnichannel distribution models with more than 35 new groups. Even more operators have been enthusiastic adopters of e-commerce to maintain customer loyalty. But in parallel, banks and payment service providers are launching new e-commerce solutions targeting small and medium-sized enterprise. For example, Network International launched the Go Online solution in 2018, enabling merchants to create their own e-commerce sites and accept payments. Of course, consumer experience also is really key. Digital wallets and apps have taken a strategic place to deliver the same level of convenience and security than in store. And more companies are realizing the benefit of putting the customer at the center, getting higher conversion rates. Investment and acquisition in the e-commerce space. Basically, global e-commerce giants like Amazon, Uber, or Delivery Hero have used acquisitions to enter the regional market. And last but not least, government initiatives. Here to promote innovation and entrepreneurship and a cashless economy to foster financial inclusion and greater transparency as well, have given a significant boost to e-commerce development in the UAE. So one example is the Dubai Commerce City, which is the first e-commerce free zone in the region. That really helped actually to support e-commerce industry and regional manufacturer. So until 2020, the digital payments ecosystem in the GCC was already experiencing strong growth, but the pandemic has helped accelerate the pace of change and progress. So let's look at the impact of and how it drives the acceleration of e-commerce and digital payments. So the COVID pandemic has accelerated customer shift towards e-commerce. They are increasingly relying on digital services for daily needs. GCC consumers went online to access goods from retailers whose stores were closed. According to different visa study that we released with the Dubai Economy and Dubai Police, 49% of consumers have been shopping online more since the virus outbreak in UAE. Groceries and pharmacies especially benefited from that rush to online. The shift to e-commerce is expected to continue long term, with many consumers and merchants experiencing the convenience of shopping online for the first time. 80% of consumers in the UAE have made changes to their shopping behavior, and close to half say that they intend to continue the same habits even after government restrictions are fully relaxed. The pandemic has simultaneously sped up also the demand for cashless options. Digital payments have the preference of consumers, and this trend is likely to continue post-COVID. According to the same visa survey, 61% of consumers shopping online in UAE are now using cards or digital wallets, more to make payments online instead of opting for cash on delivery. And the outlook post-COVID is that 43% will continue using contactless payments, and 48% will opt for digital payments online over cash on delivery for future e-commerce purchase. The impact of merchants has been significant as they try to respond to the constraints imposed by the pandemic and the demand of consumers for the online provision of goods and services. So merchants have become more digitally present, and merchants who were digitally present before have seen an average increase of more than 20% in their online activity. More than 80% of small businesses in the UAE and 93% in Saudi-Arabië have seen their revenues negatively impacted following the outbreak. However, we saw merchants quickly acknowledge that a digital-first business is a necessity, and they are shifting strategies to enhance their online offering and digital payment acceptance. SMEs are also pivoting to a digital-first mindset, supported by government policies and entrepreneurship and changing consumer behavior. So having an online presence during this time has become a very necessity, and many UAE merchants have made significant changes to their online distribution channels. For some essential services, such as grocery provision, these changes have been necessary to cope with increased demand, while for other services where face-to-face purchase has not been allowed, online has been the only distribution outlet available to them. So essential services, Carrefour, actually they saw a 59% increase in their new customers on its online platform during the same during the COVID period. Many bricks and mortar retailers launched their online services like Magical Footame or Lulu hypermarkets. Delivery services expanding further. We talk quite a lot about that. Small and micro businesses went online for the first time, and I think here this is really a key highlight. Merchants have become really more digitally present, and many businesses turn to online commerce platforms such as Shopify to quickly get them up and running. Government encouraged cashless transactions to combat the pandemic spread. So initiative led by government entities, financial institutions, and digital payments provider pushed the agenda of contactless transaction, fueling the acceleration of digital payments. And last but not least, home entertainment purchases became more popular. Online purchasing will continue to grow. That's pretty sure. However, the full potential for growth will only be realized if the existing concerns and pain points of both consumer and merchant are addressed. And the focus should be on aspects that improve the customer experience, which include less friction, faster infrastructure, increased government backing and consumer protection, increased investment, all of which will accelerate customer engagement and support the evolution of the GCC e-commerce market. So for consumer, replication online of the in-store experience through augmented reality, building trust in online purchasing and removing friction in the payment experience are likely to be really important. And for merchants, simply simplifying the online onboarding experience, particularly for small and micro businesses, and reducing physical cash on delivery will have significant impacts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Diane Tullery, for this very insightful presentation. Today, you're digital or you die is a very suitable quote for today's webinar coming from Mohammed Al-Abar, the founder of Noon. Noon is a homegrown e-commerce platform which aims to become the leading online shopping destination for the Middle East region. Mr. Sid Choudhary is currently marketing lead at Noon, specializing in partnerships. With a professional background in the Middle East, he has vast experience of the market and consumer trends in the region. And Mr. Ravi Kant, who is head of marketplace and strategic partnerships for the Noon fashion business. He has taken up various leadership roles in consumer internet and retail businesses across the Middle East and the Indian subcontinent. Mr. Sid, Mr. Ravi, we are looking forward to hearing the story of Noon. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. Thank you, and thank you everyone for having us on today. Evelyn, I just want to confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, that's working perfectly.
Perfect. So yeah, like I said, good afternoon to everyone in the UAE. Good morning to everyone in Belgium. And thank you for joining and thank you for having us to learn more about Noon. So I'd like to start by explaining a little bit more about who we are, what our aims are, and a bit about our journey so far as a major e-commerce player in the region. Our mission is very simple. We want to create a world-class marketplace, as Evelyn said already, for consumers and businesses across the Middle East. It's a region that, if we're honest, has been lacking in digital quality in past years, and we've actively been looking to change that since starting Noon.com in 2017. In less than 3 years, we've developed and improved our marketplace and have expanded to other products to help further meet the needs of the region as well. So here are a few key milestones that we have achieved since our inception, which was the 12th of December in 2017 in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. These that we've already spoken about have huge penetration rates. You'll see here that in our first year, we beat a lot of our peers with regards to our first year scale up. That's not just in the Middle East, but globally as well. We took a big leap at the start of last year, launching into Egypt, which is obviously a country with a massive population, almost 100 million people. So a huge market for us. Since then, we've launched further products such as Call, Civi, Daily, and Now, which I'll explain a little bit more about as we go on. Another massive milestone for us was our Yellow Friday sale. I know someone's already spoken about sales and the impact they have in the region. But our Yellow Friday sale last November in 2019 actually surpassed Amazon's White Friday event. So as you can imagine, we were all pretty thrilled with that. So as mentioned, we've created more of an ecosystem around Noon rather than just staying as a simple e-commerce marketplace. These are currently all of our products. So we've got Noon, Noon.com, which we've got on web and the app. It's the region's homegrown digital marketplace with a huge number of categories. We then have Noon Daily, which is our grocery platform, which currently lives on the Noon app. So it's got a lot of unique capabilities, including ordering by midnight and receiving your groceries at your door before 9 a.m. the next morning. We recently launched Civi, which is our dedicated fashion play, again with some capabilities that haven't been found in the region, such as 3-hour delivery in Dubai, a rewards program, and yeah, it's become our go-to fashion play. We then have Call, which is our value-focused marketplace, more for high-quality deals, getting products at unbelievable prices, and the ability for group buying as well. We recently launched Now, which is our on-demand platform. I think Mr. Fabre mentioned InstaShop, which is a version of Instacart, so very similar to that. It was huge and really took off during the COVID-19 pandemic. It gave a lot of our customers access to stores and services from their local neighborhood, even during lockdown. We then have Noon VIP, which again was launched recently. So Noon VIP is our loyalty program and gives our customers, our most loyal customers, benefits for online and offline. So it includes 1% cashback as well as discounts at hotels, restaurants, spas, etc. And finally, we have Noon Pay as well. So Noon Pay is our digital wallet and payment gateway in the fintech space. So being a homegrown player, we offer some very unique capabilities that really, to be honest, can't be found elsewhere in the region. So we have last mile access to 2/3 of online shoppers across 200 cities in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. We very quickly become the most preferred online shopping platform with over 500 million visits and over 30 million app downloads. Again, we very quickly became the #1 shopping destination on the Saudi Arabian App Store as well. So because of all this, we've managed to capture a huge database of consumer insights, which allows for great analysis and segmentation of our audience. It's enabled us to really tailor and customize our customer journeys on the platform, from push notifications to the actual look and feel of our homepage. We're very flexible with our brands to allow them to show their story and their narrative, offering customized product display pages, which give the brands that sell on Noon complete control over the assortment and content that they show. Our in-house marketing team are able to create content specific to the region, again, giving us a huge leg up with our competitors. They're able to capture an authentic Middle Eastern audience with bespoke and multilingual content. So if you look through any of our social media, you'll see just how prominent this really is. Finally, our platform and infrastructure is generally unique, especially our fulfilled by Noon option. I'll come on to that a little bit more, and my colleague Ravi will explain exactly what fulfilled by Noon is later on in our presentation. But we've quickly become the largest established B2C delivery network, last mile delivery network in the region. So here are the major retail categories we have on Noon. We've seen some consumer trends already today during the webinar for some of these categories. So I'm not going to go through each one, but as you can see, we've got a huge assortment across the platform. We really feel like we cater to all the wants and needs of a customer here in the Middle East with the number of categories and products that we offer through the marketplace. So as sellers, these are the things that are going to be very important to you. So to ensure customers are satisfied with regard to delivery. I think it was Mr. Fabre's presentation that showed that one of the gripes of consumers in the region is the delivery experience. So this is something that we really focus on a lot. So we currently have 5 of our own fulfillment centers across our 3 markets. There are 2 more under construction here in the UAE, as well as more in Saudi Arabia and Egypt. In Saudi Arabia, we have centers in Riyadh, Dammam, and Jeddah, which allows for great efficiency in the 3 main areas of the country. I touched on our fulfilled by Noon model earlier. Our centers can house and store your products. And once orders come in, we look after packaging and distributing in a timely manner. All sellers have to do really is get their products to our centers. And this allows us to be extremely reliable in terms of our deliveries. Our turnaround time is rapid with goods in our warehouses as well. We've got our own ways of housing and storing options. We do also offer sellers third-party storage as an option, where our delivery drivers will come collect the products from you and then deliver to the customer on your behalf. We now got a very innovative and established logistics and fulfillment network across the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. As mentioned before, with the largest last mile delivery fleet of over 3,300 vehicles and more than 4,000 freelancers helping deliver products on time. We had to get quite creative in terms of last mile delivery. So anyone who's visited this part of the world will know we don't have postcodes, or in some areas we don't even have street names and numbers in many parts of the region. So this is where our freelancers are extremely helpful and resourceful. They've got local knowledge and are from the region or area or neighborhood that they're delivering in. So this is especially helpful in Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Obviously, such big countries with some of our customers living in the most remote areas. So this allows us to fulfill our promises with regards to delivery times, both for our sellers and for our customers. As the slide says here, we're extremely solutions oriented, and we offer an array of methods for delivery, whether it's same day, door to door, and we even do locker drop off. I think this was especially prominent during the COVID-19 lockdown, allowing for us to implement contactless delivery very quickly. It was a very seamless transition that we managed to implement very, very quickly. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague Ravi, who's going to tell you a bit more about fees and exactly how it works for sellers on our platform. So Ravi, over to you.
Thanks, Sid. Good afternoon, everyone here in the UAE and the GCC. Good morning back there in Belgium. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for being present and giving this opportunity for Noon to be present on this platform. I'll quickly touch upon the commercial rates that we have, what are the benefits that we give in return against these rates. So we have, as Sid mentioned, we have everything from electronics, white goods, to fashion, home, jewelry, and accessories. Depending upon the product categories, the sales commission for us varies from 5% to 27%. This is same across all the regions. Egypt has a bit lower, I would say, a commission structure. It's still more competitive, as we saw that market is still evolving. Besides the sales commission, which is now including the VAT, we also have something we call as closing fee, which is over and above the sales commission. This typically ranges depending upon the actual sales price. Either it's 4% or 4 dirhams or 4 Saudi riyal in flat. In general, for our sellers, the storage in the warehouses are free, subject to the stocks being maintained for anything which is less than 180 days. If the aging of the products, typically shoots above the 180 days or 6 months, we would levy a small fee. This is basically to discourage any kind of unproductive inventory sitting idle in the warehouses, so that your working capital is also flowing and then faster returns are gained. Now, what we give you back in return and how we are different from other players or market players is, first thing is this whole commission structure plus closing fee. There's a technology cost, there is a platform fee. The last mile is always done by Noon. Now, this you might have noticed, this is different from its Amazon, where sellers do have the option to ship directly to the consumers. Now, when we say that, for us, every single piece that reaches the consumer, every single piece, the last mile is done by Noon, and therefore every single piece is checked and the quality inspection is done. So we ensure that what consumers see on the PDPs, on the display, on the mobile phones, they are receiving exactly the same piece. There's no level of differentiation. This ensures consistency in delivery of our quality. Now, having said that, we are starting to toy up with last mile delivery for very large sellers in some cases, where we are sure that the quality would never be compromised. So this is something new which we are just starting off. I would say we are just starting off like a few weeks back. We just started. Besides this, we also provide and support you all the sellers with different kinds of marketing activities depending upon the size of the brand, the size of the business, the volume that we can project. We provide marketing support in terms of whether it's push notifications or bringing affinity along with our social media coverages. So this is all you get in return. For us, typically, as Mr. Fabri mentioned, and also we saw in other presentations, the decline in the offline business, fortunately, has been taken over to large extent, I would say, by the e-commerce. And then for us, this business is growing and growing pretty fast. Sid, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. Now, to become seller with Noon, the things are pretty simple. I would be first focusing on UAE and Saudi Arabia. Between UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, Saudi Arabia, because of the sheer market size, holds the lion's share. So typically, it would be about 70% to 80%, depending upon different product categories. Now, if you have to be a seller in each of these countries, you need to fulfill us or give in one of our warehouses in each of the countries. Now, Noon does not do cross-border shipment. So Noon would not be moving your stocks or the seller stocks from UAE to Saudi Arabia or vice versa. So second thing is in for the marketplace businesses, because essentially the sellers own the products. We are only a custodian. We are only providing the platform or warehouses. Noon will not be imported on record in each of the countries. Now, what it means is there are a few documents that's required to be a seller on Noon. One, you need to have a trade license, let's say in UAE, or something is called as commercial registration, a CR in Saudi Arabia. You can either have commercial registration in Saudi Arabia as well as in UAE, or you can just have your trade license in one of the countries. But VAT registration, having a VAT registration or a TRN number in both the countries is mandatory. That's critical. But as per the law, even if you have, let's say, a VAT trade license here in UAE, you do not necessarily have to have commercial registration in Saudi Arabia. You can directly apply for a VAT. We can also provide you with some of the sellers with the local agents who can help in gaining or getting these TRN numbers and trade registrations. Definitely the relationship or business between these agents would be purely between the businesses and these agents. We will not be involved in the custom clearance. So one of your fleet or logistics partners can do for you. Third thing is, let's say we are assuming that most of the businesses in this webinar would be coming from Belgium. You can also use your Belgium's company details, or I would say, let's say a trade license or equivalent in Belgium. You do not necessarily have to have a trade license or commercial registration in these countries. You can use your country's trade license, but again, you need to have a VAT registration or TRN number in each of these countries. Third, on the payments, again, we can pay you back into your local bank accounts in US dollars. That's absolutely fine with us. There's only one catch. For example, there are generally weekly payments made for all the successful deliveries. However, if the outstanding for the previous week is less than, let's say, 1,000 AD or 1,000 riyals, that amount moves into the subsequent weeks. And this is pretty much it. It's pretty simple. So I think to sum it all, the market is changing, and we say, inshallah, things are bouncing back. Economy is gaining pace, and everything should be fine very soon, I guess. And in terms of e-commerce, that still is growing and growing phenomenally, and it presents a huge opportunity for all the sellers. With UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, we present over 150 million potential customers, combined for these three markets. And pretty soon, in a couple of years, we will also be gaining into other GCC and MENA markets. So if you have any questions, please feel free, and we'll be more than happy to take those questions. Thanks. And then Back to you, Evelyn.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sid and Mr. Ravi, for this nice introduction to Noon. I would suggest that we keep the questions until the end because we have one more speaker for today. And another crucial player in the e-commerce cycle is the local importer. Truewell Marketing and Trading being one of them, we are very happy to have with us today Mrs. Nathalie Carvalho, their head of e-commerce, who has a track record in this field as well. Mrs. Nathalie, the floor is yours.
Hi there, Evelyn. Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Are you able to see that?
Yes, that's working. If you can just put it on presenter view, that would be absolutely great.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Thank you. So firstly, I'd like to thank Mr. Ambassador and Evelyn for having us on the call. I will be speaking to you on behalf of the e-commerce team here at Truewell. So we launched with non-food in 2018 on e-commerce, and in 2020 we expected to see double-digit growth. However, we've superseded that, as you can imagine, and we're more in line with a 2022 projection, which is fantastic. Due to the pandemic and e-commerce demand, it has been sort of sped up. So customers are wanting to shop online. Retailers are not that were not present in the e-commerce world have launched to be able to service demand and capture sales. So the flexibility of our platform is to be able to connect with brands or connect the brands to the retailers in multiple fashions from e-commerce and perspective. So we aim to provide the e-commerce business with a leading e-commerce fulfillment service to scale their brand to new heights. So we partner with the brands who we have shared ideology, and we connect them to the e-tailers out there in the market. So our e-commerce hub, 250,000 square feet. We have a state-of-the-art facility in regulation with the likes of Amazon and Noon warehouses. We have fully temperature-controlled environment, which allows us to have all sorts of product on board. We manage volume, and we've done it extremely well during the lockdown and during White Friday events due to the scale of our business. We have a 24/7 facility that never sleeps, so we're always on, and we have a real-time pick and pack. So as soon as the order's sent through, it's immediately sent to pick and pack. So we're able to offer that service. So our order fulfillment, as I mentioned, real-time pick and pack. So we provide e-commerce businesses with the leading e-commerce fulfillment to be able to scale their brands to new heights. And we strengthen brands' relationships with their customers. From branded packaging to shipping solutions, it keeps your business at top of mind. So we receive, we process, pick, pack, inventory management, and ship to give the best service. Flexible shipping and fulfillment. So we have pick and pack stations, as you can see in the image here. It's an example of what we have in the warehouse. We have fast shipping at low cost transportations to support all shipping strategies. We have a wide breadth of flexible shopping options. In-house logistic fleet, which lowers shipping costs for your business. We're very customer centric, so we like to make sure we ensure we meet needs of the customers, including being able to ship on time and having timely deliveries. Faster delivery window is exactly what the customers are looking for. In line with this, we use SAP system, which for us is a state-of-the-art system. It allows us to manage your product inventory and logistical services, to gain valuable insight through real-time inventory reports, integrated technology and program management, and our teams learn this by brand, so what's needed for each brand. Get real-time visibility from receiving through order fulfillment. So having this system on board really is valuable to us and the brands in being able to manage everything and to have sort of real-time inventory reports so that you're never out of stock, which is where every brand would like to be. So then when we talk about customer packaging, Truebell provides customer fulfillment aligned with your precise needs and requirements. So we have the flexibility to deliver to customers in branded boxes and packaging to ensure that you have that sort of, you buy the brand and it's delivered to the door with the brand packaging if the brand requires. We're able to meet seasonal demands, seasons such as Ramadan, your white Black Fridays, Yellow Fridays, beauty weeks, in order to have the volumes go through and no issue in delivery. So we also have a wider range of sort of wrapping facilities. So whether it's shrink wrapped, banding, gift boxing, cartons, barcoding, sterilisation, whatever the needs are for the brand, we are able to do this, as we have the picking, packing stations and the possibility to manage that. Here is just a quick snapshot of the evolution of the fulfillment centre. So as you can see at the top, it's just distribution centre DC. We are now in the omni-channel box at the bottom. So we've really moved leaps and bounds in the last 12 months. So yeah, we are really moving forward with this. Be able to directly deliver to the customers' homes, which is fantastic. So if we split the retail and marketplace divisions for e-commerce, we're working on both models. We work on the retail side and the marketplace. So e-commerce marketing tools and strengths are key for retail. Vendor-powered coupons, sampling, branded storefronts and virtual bundling, amongst many other marketing tools that we work with on the retail doors. Alongside the branded page and the subscribe and save. And then when you look into marketplace, our two key players, Amazon and Noon, we're able to offer quick deliveries, bundles and a different variety of options for the customer. So from retail to marketplace, we can have a different offering, price point and bundles, which is great for the customer. When we have a look at our channels of trade e-commerce, you can see here the 4 channels that we have. So our top tier multi-channels are your Amazon and your Noon, which offer a wide variety of selection and depth throughout the brands. And then you have e-commerce players for mother and baby, such as Mum's World and First Cry, who are leading in the market. It's everything from prenatal, postnatal up to 12 years. We also service health and specialty and fresh produce partners, as you can see on the far left, with the likes of Kibson, Farmbox, and Organic and Real. And on the far right, Brick and Click and e-grocers, which has grown rapidly throughout the last year, the last 12 months, to manage demand. We have a positive growth across all 4 channels, which is really exciting. It's exciting to see how quickly e-commerce really has picked up in this region across the board this year. So e-commerce services, this is just a quick slide to share that we have VendorFlex, SellerFlex, SNS, Ship and Save, Noon Daily, Cross-Dock, which is back-to-back, as some of you will know, and Fulfilled by Noon. So these are just a few of the services that we provide. And then when we have a look at mother and baby, as their leading platforms in the region currently, you have Mum's World on the left and First Cry on the right. So Mum's World is the leading online retailer at the moment that we service in the region. And First Cry was launched the back end of last year and are gaining great speed with great delivery windows and assortment. Both of these models work on a buying stock and back-to-back basis, so fantastic mother and baby platforms to be working with. And last but not least, e-commerce events and promotions. So we ensure to be up to date with the marketing calendars for all platforms and all e-retailers to ensure that we are in line with the baby weeks, the beauty weeks, the White Fridays, the Ramadan events, so that we don't miss a promotion or a trick. It's important to have attractive offers during peak campaigns with retailers so that we don't miss high footfall events. This is amongst one of the things that we ensure to do. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Natalie, for this fine presentation. And this was the final presentation of our webinar. So first and foremost, I would like to thank all our speakers for giving us this thorough overview of the e-commerce market in the GCC. We have some time left for questions, and I see that some of you have posted questions in the chat box. So let me go over a few of them. Mr. Davis, if you allow me your questions related to the energy sector, that we get back to you on that on a separate note. There's a question related to the presentation of Mr. Fabre, where apparently on one of the slides, an increase of 17% of building materials has been noted during COVID-19. Mr. Fabre, do you have any explanation for the increase?
Yes, as I mentioned on the chat, I think this refers to home improvement. So it's, it's consumer spend on their debit cards. So you can imagine those are maybe, either furnitures or home improvement, new tile, new painting, new all kind of home improvement project that you may do. And this is related to the fact that as people had to be in lockdown, they decided to make their home a bit more comfortable, maybe a gazebo in the garden and things like that.
Okay, all clear. The next question relates to the food and more specifically a very Belgian product being chocolate. So apparently platforms like Noon or Amazon do not accept to deliver those chocolates. So let me perhaps address that question to Noon itself. Is that so? And more importantly, do you think of going into this high-end gourmet food market of Belgian chocolates, for instance?
Yeah, I think at Noon, we have Noon and Noon Daily. We do allow these chocolates. These products are more than welcome to trade, so long as they are passing and they are in conformity with the local regulations and municipality rules. If they adhere to that, we are fine with it. We don't have any issues.
Okay, let me perhaps stay with Noon for some further questions. Are you also allowed to sell or deliver OTC medicines?
At the present, I would say no, but we'll have to come back if there are any specific questions related to this. We can come back. In general, no.
Okay, and perhaps the final question for you, which is a very important one. If companies are interested to join Noon, who should they talk to?
So we would send across a couple of mail IDs. All the questions and those mail IDs can be shared by you to the audience. The questions and can be sent to them. Also, in general, sellers can register themselves. We do have an option which sellers can see at the middle bottom of the page, which is Sell with Us. It's pretty easy, self-navigating, it would explain, and sellers can register through those links as well.
Okay, and another question came in. Does Noon offer cleaning tools to household consumers and to professional cleaning companies?
If you're talking about B2C, yes. I would not say in B2B, but in B2C, yes, we do have.
Okay, thank you very much. And perhaps the final question for Mrs. Dian, which is actually more of a remark than a question. Apparently also the e-commerce market for lab supplies and chemicals is booming. Mrs. Dian, is that also a trend that you are seeing from your end? Or is it difficult to delve in so deeply into the numbers?
Actually, yeah, you're right. We don't have the capability actually to deep dive so much into the details, but I guess it would be very interesting actually to look at it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in there in the data. But yeah, definitely it requires more work actually to have a clear view on that.
Okay, thank you very much. If anyone has any further questions, now is the time to post them in the chat, or perhaps send it to us afterwards. So no further questions, then allow me to conclude this webinar by thanking once again our speakers for having shared their valuable insights and experience with us today. To our audience, do check out our website flanderstrade.be for any of our upcoming events, and do reach out to our offices across the Middle East and beyond for any questions you might have on doing business over there. Thank you for having been with us, and see you next time.